It is 0 hour 30, Universal Time. I'm Jim Tedder in Washington. Iraq's National Security Advisor has announced the arrest of the second highest leader of the Al-Qaeda in Iraq terrorist group. Muwafaq al-Rabai said Iraqi forces arrested Al-Qaeda leader Hamid Juma Farid al-Saidi a few days ago near the city of Baquba. He said Iraqi forces killed or captured 20 other Al-Qaeda members after the arrest of Mr. Saidi. Mr. Rabai said Mr. Saidi ordered the bombing of a Shiite holy place in the town of Samarra in February. The attack led to deadly fighting between Sunnis and Shiites in Iraq. Also, Iraq's Prime Minister and the President of Iraqi Kurdistan criticized each other concerning a ban on flying the Iraqi flag in the northern Kurdish area of Iraq. A bomb explosion at an eating place in southeastern Turkey has killed 2 people and wounded at least 7 others. No one has claimed responsibility for the attack in the town of Jatok. Police suspect Kurdish separatists. Last week, a group believed linked to the banned Kurdistan Workers' Party claimed responsibility for bombings in Istanbul and Mediterranean sea towns. Those attacks killed at least 3 people and wounded many others. Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert has offered to hold peace talks with Lebanese Prime Minister Fuad Siniora. Mr. Olmert reportedly said it would be natural to sit down with Mr. Siniora and end the hatred coming from parts of Lebanon. Mr. Siniora told Israel last week to end its air and sea blockade of Lebanon and fully withdraw its troops. He also demanded that Israel return all the land seized in the 1967 war. Israel has said it would end the blockade when the full United Nations peacekeeping force is in place in southern Lebanon. The UN plans to deploy 15,000 peacekeepers to supervise the ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. United Nations Secretary-General Kofi Annan says Iran refuses to suspend uranium enrichment, but is ready to negotiate about its nuclear program. Mr. Annan met in Tehran with Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. He told reporters Mr. Ahmadinejad said Iran is prepared to negotiate an answer to the nuclear crisis. Iran faces possible UN Security Council restrictions for failing to suspend its nuclear program. The United States and many of its European allies say Iran is planning to build nuclear weapons. Iran says its nuclear program is peaceful. The NATO-led force in Afghanistan says it has killed about 200 Taliban rebels in a NATO offensive in Kandahar. Canada says 4 of its soldiers also died in the fighting. The alliance offensive, called Operation Medusa, began Saturday. Its goal is to find Taliban rebels hiding in the Panjwai area. The NATO-led force says Afghan police captured more than 80 suspected Taliban fighters. Another 180 suspects reportedly fled the area. You are listening to the news in VOA Special English. Several thousand people have gathered in the Russian town of Beslan to remember a school siege by Chechen rebels 2 years ago. 333 hostages died during the attack and rescue. During the ceremony, students released hundreds of balloons to remember the victims. Mexican opposition leader Manuel Andrés López Obrador says he will never recognize candidate Felipe Calderón as president. Mr. López Obrador called on his supporters to continue to resist the process that appears ready to name Mr. Calderón the next president of Mexico. He also said that he would set up another government. Mr. López Obrador said he is aiming for deep change to make Mexico a country that is fair and honorable. Last week, the top electoral court in Mexico dismissed Mr. López Obrador's claims of cheating in the July presidential election. The court must declare a winner by September 6th. Also in Mexico, President Vicente Fox has begun a visit to his country's Baja California area that was hit by a severe storm. Mr. Fox traveled to the area as the storm grew weaker. The storm has caused flooding and cut power in some parts of the area. No deaths were reported. Weather experts say mountain areas may still experience flooding and mudslides, and they say the storm may bring rains to the southwestern United States. Police in Zimbabwe have warned the country's largest trade union against holding demonstrations this month to protest the extreme poor living conditions. Demonstrating without police permission is illegal in Zimbabwe. Earlier, the leader of the Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions said the labor group plans to organize demonstrations across the country on September 13th. Wellington Chibibi said workers want higher pay, lower taxes, and the ability to get drugs for those living with HIV and AIDS. Negotiators in Somalia have held talks aimed at bringing lasting peace to the nation. The second day of Arab League-organized peace discussions was held in the Sudanese capital, Khartoum. Representatives of Somalia's temporary government and Islamist opposition leaders discussed security and political issues. The Islamist leaders control the Somali capital and much of the country's southern area. They are demanding a share of power in Somalia's government. They also accuse Ethiopian troops of protecting the Somali government's base in Baidoa. Ethiopia and the Somali government deny the troops' presence. And now, briefly, here again is the major news of the hour. Iraqi officials say they have arrested the second highest leader of the Al-Qaeda in Iraq terrorist group. A bomb explosion at an eating place in southeastern Turkey has killed 2 people and wounded at least 7 others. And Israel's Prime Minister has offered to hold peace talks with Lebanon's Prime Minister. And that's the news in VOA Special English. From Washington, this is Jim Tedder reporting.